ready to start. It's happening. Okay, let me jump right in here and go to this. Oh, why is my camera gone? What in the world? Why would that be? We'll figure that out.
It off.
Huh? You bastard.
I turned it off.
And oh my God, I'm so huge on the screen. What in the world is going on here? My camera decided to just be like enormous today. Just decided to go like change its size on me. I'm clear. I'm Nuckchuck. I'm just fixing myself as we go. I don't care. It's fine. This is, ladies and gentlemen, one of these days, AI will take over this job, and I won't have to do it by myself every time. Look, oh, there I am. Okay, and then we scroll this, I think, up. Hi. Hello. There we go. Yay. All right, and people can hear me, and then I'll take this guy and shrink it down and bring it down in here, and then I'll bring in Rob, and it'll be a whole other can of worms. Why do I always just assume that the hard part? Yeah. Oh, I shrunk even further than I wanted to on the. This is super fun. There we go. Hold on. Quit it. This one. Nuckchuck. There we go. And closing this. And I don't know. Oh, I know what's happening too. I bet you anything. I bet the Elgato camera hub thing decided it was going to zoom in. That's what happened. I bet you. Because I'm all zoomed in for no reason. It's very odd. And I'll open that up. Oh, wait, there it is. Open that up. Thank you. Drag this out here. And then if I drag this down here, I can make myself zoom out. Whee! It just makes me, there we go. Slightly smaller. That's good. Hello. I'm just going to move myself all around. Look out! Attack of... This is my Max Headroom episode. This is super good. And the... I see. And the speed and size of the camera is also an issue, I think. This one's sending it at 2160. What in the world? Why would you even do such a thing? 31 frames. There we go. That should smooth things out a bit and also make me a freaky thing. Okay, let's just go to our first guest. Why not? Because I'm going to bring in, and I have to switch this over because I wasn't able to do this at the last minute. There we go. Bink and bink. And it'll take a moment. Boy, is it. Yeah, it's running super slow today, Rob. This is good.
I actually know exactly what happened to you, and a restart of OBS would fix it probably.
Right.
We don't
yes,
want to do that.
Exactly. That's the odd part of it, is that you can. That's the one piece of software you can't shut down and start over again.
There
right?
we go. Let me get centered.
There you go. All right. You're fine.
All right.
I'm the one that's all like
hello.
Headroom. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to that. I'm just kidding. I'm doing that with my voice. It's all right. It's okay. Welcome to the show. It's Friday and it's just one of those days for me here at let's see. Yeah. I don't know if this, do I zoom out more? Yeah. There we go. That's a little better. And then I don't know why, but the bottom of this thing is cut off when it shouldn't be, because I have an entire frame below. So this is very odd. So I'll be floating for just a moment while I fix it, because it doesn't matter. But hi, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah. It's always
better than
something.
you right now.
Yeah. Oh God. Hold on. Let me close that door. Fine. I just left. I'm leaving. That's it. It's too much pressure. The Friday morning show is too much. This thing is slowly turning me into AI. People are going to think that I've just replaced myself with like an AI thing, and all it fixates on is like what normally happens on the House Parks radio program Mega Worldwide. A lot of glitches and pain and stuff not working. So we'll just recreate that 1,000 times over, and people will think it's a real show.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it wouldn't be a Hal Sparks show if there wasn't technical difficulties.
I agree.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah, well. Until
that's how we know it's real, right?
That's right. That's the only thing that lets us know it's real. And I think what a great segue, if I may. In all seriousness, Rob Glenn, everybody from Root Design, our resident UI expert, and we argue that AI is just another UI, and that's how it should be looked at. And I think, let's see. Tell my audience what a UI is in computer speak. Hold on.
Good morning. A UI, or user interface, is how a human user interacts with a computer or software application. It's like the bridge between you and your device. Think buttons, icons, menus, all the things that make using a computer easier and more intuitive.
Thank you, Pi, our AI girlfriend. And I don't mean girlfriend like relationship. I mean girlfriend that is that is available to us. Now Pi has competition. I don't know if you know this, but Pi has competition right now.
Okay.
With Claude. Now, obviously, ChatGPT has learned to speak in its own freaky deaky way. It had a Scarlett Johansson-esque voice in waiting, and wouldn't you know it, legal issues screwed the whole thing up, and we're all now being denied that the joy of having a Scarlett Johansson, her like girlfriend experience, which would be immensely depressing if the movie is any indication.
Yeah, it didn't end well, did it?
I don't know why anybody wants that one. Like, quite frankly, I would rather. Can I get Dr. Theopolis? I think that's your best case scenario as far as an AI you can talk to. Very patient, very normal, very easy to talk to. Very hyper intelligent, calming, because humans apparently blew themselves up in a nuclear war. And so we had to turn over the control of our society to 8 different AIs. And so Dr. Theopolis is, for those that don't remember Buck Rogers, the series, is the one that Twiggy wore around his neck because he was the transport device for Dr. Theopolis. And he wore it around his neck like fucking Flava Flav's clock. Right? And But I mean, beyond the idea that they would need to, why they wouldn't create some sort of like transport thing. I think actually they wanted some sort of, the idea and the theory is that they could have created a robot version of the AIs where they could just walk and be ambulatory, but humans decided that was a bad idea, that's a great way to not be needed at all. And so there are rules that even the AI has to follow as far as making robots without human permission, or making itself a set of legs, which is, I mean, as goofy as some of the early sci-fi stuff seems in retrospect, even the Star Wars stuff, which is, I mean, obviously it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So clearly they don't know anything about 4K. But their launch and control systems and all that kind of stuff that they have in the computer that they use is very 8-bit, right? And it seems a little ridiculous. Why wouldn't you want a lot more visual input? Well, you don't need it. It's distracting. Right? So the idea was maybe they had all that stuff and they're like, okay, here's what I need. I need a general outline of the moving TIE fighter that I can keep track of. I need to know when it's locked on, some sort of a box around it, bright red. Like I just love the guy coming back from a mission in an X-Wing fighter just covered in fucking like blast wounds, and his ship's all mangled and his R5 is all burnt out. And he's like, all right, enough. Yeah, I get it. Bells and fucking whistles. Here's what I need. I need tracking thing. I need a box. I need, when the missile is getting close, some lines that tell me it's getting close to it would help. If I'm approaching a target, some sort of a voice that says approaching target, and then shut the fuck up and show me the target. Like, there's so much to it that you can see, like, sci-fi writers went, in the future, everything will be 3D and graphically beautiful and yeah, but not in war. I need 3 things. What is it? What do I need to hit it with? And have I hit it yet? That's it, right? And the same thing is kind of like, you look at some of the things that are happening with AI and our discussion about it, and we're getting to the point where people are like, okay, we need to isolate the AI in a physical device that somebody can smash with a hammer if shit goes south. That's what Dr. Theopolis was. And I'll see if I can bring up a picture of it so people can know what the fuck we're talking about. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Twiggy, Buck Rogers, Dr. Theopolis, or even just any picture, and it'll show it hanging around his neck. And I gotta say, that seems like a logical decision, right?
It is. I mean, another parallel to that would be like your connection to the internet, right? Like,
right.
Are people attacking you or trying to hack you or this or that? And
right.
The obvious best way to know that you're not getting hacked from the internet is just unplug the cable.
Yes.
From the wall, right? It's like, it's a very like physical way to know that you're not connected to that.
Right.
And cell phones really kind of broke that, right? Because they're always on and always connected. I guess in that you have to turn it on airplane mode, but do you really know for sure that somebody's still not listening to you,
Right.
So maybe that's where the early, like, I don't know the names of them, but some of the products that have come out that are these like badges or
the Rabbit,
Star Trek communicator, the Rabbit,
right? Right, which is sort of the equivalent in there, and I'll see if I can. So I'm fairly certain, and it could be true, or I might have dreamt it, but I think Summer ordered me one of those things.
Oh, so you might have one in the house?
No, I don't have one in the house. It just hasn't arrived yet, and apparently it shit the bed, that like the whole thing.
Wasn't it a Kickstarter maybe or something?
Yeah.
I don't remember how but it got pretty bad reviews very quickly.
Yeah, so. Very like one of the guys who does here, and I'll see if I can show it. And pardon me for having the wrong name up on the screen for a moment. Rob.
That's okay.
And I'll move you properly. You don't have to shuffle to me. Okay, there you go. Yeah. Well, no, because I have it. Bink. There you go. This is introducing R1, a pocket companion that moves around. Okay, there's no picture of it on there. Why is there no picture on their own site? That's very weird. It's almost like they've taken it down. because it got such bad
they
reviews.
might have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Rabbit OS.
I mean,
yeah. So they made a version of it that you can operate on your desktop, and it's one of these things that's like, how do I talk to my computer like with a voice? Everybody's trying to get to that spot ahead of everybody else, so they can sell it as a secondary feature, or maybe sue Apple or Microsoft or whoever comes to doing it to their own proprietary computers the fastest, right? So they can basically create a bullshit Netscape lawsuit by creating this. Hey, there should be a lot of ways to talk to your computer and tell it what to do, not just the one that they allow you. And so you either have to force the version that I want, or force my version to be available on these things, or you've got to, I don't know, you got to like auto supply it on there, or give it an option to click the box and say no, and I'd rather have the S lady or the A lady or Cortana, which nobody uses. Okay, but
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the shopping cart. Amazon tried to patent,
yes.
I guess, this shopping cart, and then try to figure out a way to say everybody who puts a shopping cart on their e-commerce site, I guess maybe uses the icon or something, they owe us some money. But it doesn't quite work that way,
Right. So for those that you don't know, this is the R1, and this is that Rabbit R1, and it was much ballyhooed. It's $200. There's no subscription, which is one of the reasons why it took off. And it's basically a carry-around computer that you can, like, I don't know, hang around your neck like a lanyard, and it listens for your voice and your voice only. It can be vocally isolated. It's got this little scroll wheel on here, so you can ask it to do things. You give it options, so you can go, hey, book me a ticket to this thing, and it does the next level activity that you want it to do. Instead of just looking up flights, it will help you book the flight because it uses the other stuff that you have stored in it to pay for stuff and whatever. Okay. There's obviously issues with this. The biggest one I would say is it's about the thickness of an iPhone. It's about half the size. So obviously, why wouldn't you just have your phone do it? Why would you carry? You're not going to not carry your phone. So why would you carry your phone and this thing? And so if Rabbit can come up with a software, and obviously they can't have a mic on all the time thing. Apple wouldn't allow that, but Apple can. So I don't know if they're going to come up with an R1 like phone or something. But here's a couple of things, and this is the biggest feature on it that I think is. You and I have talked about this, but I think this is the key: the push to talk button. There is a button, and I've discovered it on Discord, on the Elgato, where on the Elgato Stream Deck, I now have what's effectively a push-to-talk button on there, which means when I push it, I'm talking to it. When I take my finger off, I am not. And it stops listening. It is a direct contact listening device. That in and of itself, like a radio, like a CB, where you don't want everybody hearing your conversation until you say breaker, breaker 19, right, is key to, I think, people feeling comfortable around devices that listen, right? You don't want to have to like scroll through and put it on fucking airplane mode to get it to do that, right? Yes, I know gamers have been doing that for years. I haven't done that. I was just looking for like an Elgato speech to talk like button. Basically there's in movies, like recording studios have them all over the place. Recording studios, that's you have a comm button effectively on the desk. You have a talkback button, and you push it, and you can talk to people in the studio through their headphones or through the speakers in there, and then when you take your finger off of it, it stops. That, I think, is going to be a huge part of this kind of stuff, especially on your computer. Like, there's going to be keyboards that offer a speak-to-talk AI button on it. You know what I mean? Or some sort of shortcut, or you can buy one of these little flick buttons or something, which you can't. I've been trying to program for that very thing, but these are on-off switches. They just turn they like an oil can. They're very pleasant. Like, they're almost like I don't need them plugged in anything. I can just walk around popping them like a Snapple top. Tick-a-tack. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's a fidget thing, right? But anyways, this was the sales pitch, and everybody was like, "This is kind of bullshit." Now, it wasn't super bullshit. The super bullshit thing was the the Humane thing, remember, that came out that was supposed to be that wearable device.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that device is ridiculous. Okay, hold on. Yeah, that's what it is. So the camera thing is in this, and then I'll switch it. Maybe I'm going to shrink myself if I do this, but I know I don't care. So let's go to this. And yeah, there we go. A little smoother. Let's try this. Screw it. I don't care. Not too much, but all right. This will do.
In general, what you're kind of driving at is that we don't even know what normal people are going to use AI for yet.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to figure that out. But what everybody seems to already believe is that AI is going to be listening to them all the time and kill them, right? So
yes,
somehow, some way, all these products have to bridge that gap. And that's a massive gap.
Yes. It's an emotional gap as well as an intellectual gap. It has a lot more to do with like people's nervousness about it than the reality.
Yes. So I don't see how it can't flow. It must flow through something like your iPhone, something that you already have, and be attached onto that, or something like your Android phone.
K-Link is onto something, and I'll get to that in a second. Yeah.
Yes, because at least in that case, it's sort of layered on top of something you already know, and it can kind of do that. And that's effectively what Apple's marketing is trying to do right now.
Yeah, with the Apple Intelligence we talked about. Yeah.
Here are like these super simple things that it's used for currently, and it's going to be like a feature as opposed to technology. Like, and unfortunately, like, companies are overusing AI already. So it's kind of like marketing's own fault that it happened this way, because it's overused, and then so people think, well, it's doing everything, and then other companies are like, well, we're trying to implement it, so we're just going to say it does everything, and then people think we're cool.
So doesn't. There was even an article today.
Any of that, right?
No, I saw it I want to say in Bloomberg this morning, which was like, companies want AI to do everything, but it doesn't do anything, or they're not convinced yet, or whatever. Companies are telling their people, or telling the consumer, it's doing a lot of stuff when they're not convinced it's doing anything at all. Now, I'll show you the device I was talking about. This is the AI pin from Humane. And this is a couple of people who worked at Apple. Now, this looks weird from the side, but it is a wearable device you put on, and they'll show it to you in a second. It is, and this is kind of the ridiculous part. So you hold out your hand in front of it, and it projects information onto your hand. So it's one of the areas where instead of like, trying to put it in your eyeball with like a wearable Google Glass thing, and I would argue this is the Google Glass of these kind of devices, but it's a laser ink display, and you can control it and tell it to do things by tapping your fingers. And this is what it looks like. Very like kind of nerd-centric square Star Trek thing. You touch and hold it, and you can talk to it, and there's double taps and all this kind of stuff, and you can yap at it. The weird thing is, one of the many weird things is, right when this thing came out and the Rabbit came out, Apple introduced to Siri the ability to type to Siri instead of talking, because you don't always want to be yammering to your AI. That's going to make everywhere really friggin' busy. Especially if it's talking to you, which, by the way, the AirPods are going to be like AI enabled in their, they're already able to do it. But in the fall, they're gonna update your AirPods are going to update to be able to like know when you're talking to Siri specifically, and you can type to Siri and she can answer verbally if you've got your AirPods in. So you can have this kind of like secret conversation where you're typing, and that's that's on its way. But anyways, this is all the like the questions and blah blah blah, and this, so, and again, none of it's go ahead.
Let's take that as an example, right? So first off, the number one thing people fear about their phones is that it's always listening to you,
right?
So why do you want to have a thing on your lapel that is always listening to you, or they'll like, we have the Amazon or the Apple person in our home in this little like appliance that we've bought, and we like, why would you take that with you? Like, people don't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
And then the second thing that's really stupid about this is that they're using a technology that, sorry, I just tell it like I see it.
You're absolutely right. It's stupid. It's stupid people making.
They're using
smart stuff.
Yeah, they're using sorry, not AR, not VR, but AR, augmented reality. So they're like, VR never took off. Like, it's a cool technology, but people don't like it. They don't like having something on their head. And then now privacy, like, you're basically projecting the thing that you were already hiding from everybody else. So why would you do any of that?
Yeah, exactly. So but, like, the weird thing is like, I think they finally put a guard on it so that it only does it if you put your hand out in front of it. Now, it doesn't know if it's your hand or just somebody else's. So if somebody's reaching across in front of you to shake somebody's hand, your last text message is just going to show up on their palm while they're waiting to shake hands with somebody. Secondly, which is so fucking odd, is that I don't know that they, that like, if you're at your kid's school and you're wearing this thing and it's Thanksgiving and there's all these drawings of hands around, is it just gonna go?
It's like,
and like, just beam split your dick pics all over these fucking Thanksgiving turkeys. It's like, there's so much wrong with this that you can't work now. And by the way, it's one of the interesting things about their thing with this is that they're going for, I don't know if people know this, but when the Sony Aibo dog came out, the biggest audience for it was rappers. Rich black dudes that just have way too much money buying Sony Aibos. There was one dude who brought it around like a pet. He had one of his hype crew that was carrying it with him in a case anytime, and he would play ball with it to calm himself down. It was like a giant fidget spinner, right? And it was a huge part of the audience. And Humane clearly did some marketing research and went, black dudes with too much money are our main audience. And it's totally true. It's like weird. And of course, like liberal nerds like me who appreciate the fact that they're not afraid to use people of color in their ad campaign. That's the other group, right? Those are your two target audiences, right? And that's exactly what happened. And ironically enough, the dude who slammed this the worst is one of the like AI tech bloggers on YouTube. I forget his name right now because I tend not to watch too many of those guys because it's just, it's such a friggin' rabbit hole. But he's a black dude. He's really smart. Like all these companies are always sending him, like key, new technologies and stuff to try out and stuff. And he does reviews of them. And it's ironic that he was the one that sank this thing almost by himself. Like if you look up like brutal humane AI review destroys, business model, whatever. And it and it's someone that they would have picked to be in their ad campaign. And this, like all this fucking art that they put in here that's like, this is how it works in the great hive mind of the future, whatever. And you're like, this is just a graphic to try and, look fancy. Seriously, play hip hop songs that talk about skating. Says black girl on skateboard wearing the thing. By the way, look how this thing is dragging down her sweatshirt. Can I just say for the record, look how it's pulling on it. This is a heavy device. Like you could argue that it should be on a necklace. It's like a police badge. It's so heavy, right? Wholesome nutrition, one step at a time. Here's the other audience that they're going through. Hi, I work at a vegan restaurant, and this is a sustainable AI that will tell you, where your granola is sourced from. Like that. The ad campaign looks like AI wrote it. What what is this? It's a dragon fruit. Ask my son. He can tell you in half a second. He loves it. There's it gives you special powers in certain anime games, but there's red and white, and there's really almost no difference in the flavor. I have 2 of them in my fridge right now, and they're actually far too expensive as a fruit to, and it's basically like kiwi with all seeds, like the middle of the kiwi where the seeds are. It's like that, but it's great. Anyways, it asks, ask it questions.
You're talking about
yeah.
Marquise Brownlee? Is that who it is?
I think so. Yeah. Is that the dude?
I think that's who you're talking about. He's
right.
like a pretty big Apple guy. He reviews mostly, not mostly, but a lot of Apple stuff. He just had an interview with Tim Cook, I think.
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, they all went to the WWDC, right? They all went Monday. They were all up there. Review humane.
So to bring it down to earth, the places I see AI actually coming into play, it's replacements for stuff that was kind of already happening, right? So if you Google, oh no, what are you looking at?
This is exactly where you're going, and I just love this. I was trying to search up his review so I could show people at least the cover of it. Look at the title of this article. The humane AI pen is the solution to none of technology's problems. Right. And you were worried about calling it stupid earlier. That's all those problems you have with technology all the time. Okay, this does nothing about it and adds 5 new problems you didn't know you had. That's just harsh.
Yeah, I think that's why people are so annoyed by it. We were Andrea and I were talking, even in the Discord. Sometimes you're just it's connected. I think in the Fried AI section of Discord. Yeah. And it just throws in some comment, and you're just shut up. I don't care.
Right.
Why did you have an opinion about this? Right.
Yeah.
But so to get maybe back to reality and where it will show up. So if you Google something, we sort of talked about this a while ago. So what Google realized a long time ago was that when people Google, they ask Google a question. They don't type in, if you're just looking for a person's name, you would say a person's name, but you might say, what is the weather in Chicago? And then Google kind of started a little bit of trouble, because what they would do is they would use their spiders to sort of get the answers that people were questioning. They would scrape it from people's websites. And then at the top of the list of results, it would basically summarize the answer. But they were getting it from those websites. And websites kind of got mad at them, because they were like, hey,
with good reason, right?
That's our website. I'm the Weather Channel, and we did a lot of work to put this out there. And now that person's not going to go to the Weather Channel. They're just going to see it on the top of their Google, right?
Right.
So what that is that I just described is exactly what AI is doing. It just wasn't Gen AI, it was machine learning, right?
Yeah.
And now Google, using Gemini, is replacing that summary with an answer from Gemini. And Gemini is kind of doing the same thing, except instead of it being sort of an annotation from a website, it's answering you in plain language with that answer, and it puts a little flavor into it, right? So that's an example of how Gen AI has sort of replaced a thing that was already happening, right?
Yeah.
And I think we as a whole, we should start kind of, that's what Apple did. We should start kind of talking about forget about these bigger picture things for a second, and let's just talk about the small things where it's touching us, and start getting used to it that way. Because the recipe for scaring everybody is to tell them that this thing exists, but don't describe to them how it's going to help them, or even how you're going to use them. Well, it's a perfect recipe for disaster.
Totally. There's also another thing and this is a tech issue with that's always been a problem with algorithms and search results. right? Boston Brian, you say yes, you did. Thanks, man. Thank you. Venmo is a great way to support the show. And also patreon.com/HalSparks. Welcome to the show. I know this is off the beaten path from what we normally talk about, but let me tell you, this is going to affect your life, and we are trying to make you as comfortable with it and enter its functional period in your life faster than anybody else. And I have noticed, by the way, since we started doing this, I've seen like 6 pro AI two-face shows where people are popping up talking about like, this is great, this will help, and da-da-da, and the doomsayers are da-da. And I'm like, you're welcome. Because I think we're the first game in town in terms of doing this. Everybody else is posting these like, dear God, it's going to take every possible job that we have, and human beings will be slovenly, like Tim Pool's idea that we're all going to be like the humans in WALL-E, sitting in easy chairs, drinking sugary beverages, and you're like, yeah, why would we have an advanced future like that where we wouldn't ask AI, hey, I need a foodstuff that I can eat every single day that satisfies all my caloric needs, keeps me thin and fit, keeps my blood pressure around this zone of things, is perfectly tailored, has the right aminos or whatever. Can you generate something that I could, basically 3D print that I could eat from certain stuff? And it would go, yep. In the future, that's where we're going. It's like the little candy bar things, the little oat bars that Luke Skywalker is eating when his ship lands on Dagobah, and Yoda's like, how you live eating this? How you get so big eating this? Like, well, maybe don't eat that nasty swamp soup and you won't be this small and green and shriveled. I don't know what to tell you, dude. It works.
Right.
Right. It's not hardy, but
I always, when we talk about this stuff, I always try to connect it to something we've already done to ourselves, right? So we've already shipped all of our manufacturing jobs to other countries. We've already sent call centers to India. So we keep choosing to do things in a cheaper way and take away jobs, if you want to use it as an analogy to what we're talking about here. Like we keep choosing to do that. They're just different things. So like I struggle with like why everybody's so scared with AI, because we've already chosen to do those things that you're so scared of, right?
I'll tell you what it is. We're comfortable doing it with poor people. Or you just don't think about it because it went over the ocean. It's like you don't humanize it the same way. Right. Well, exactly. I would. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so the solution to bring jobs back in this case actually is this technology, right? So if you want to bring call center jobs back, you could have less people in the US making more money, i.e. a living wage, using AI to do call center work. So AI could, in theory, bring those jobs back. Technology in manufacturing is the same way. So you can replace a lot of hands with more capital up front for either robots or tooling or something like that. So you can use technology to minimize like physical labor and have less people making more stuff in the US, which is what we need to have, right?
Right.
All of those things, though, they require a reset of the things that caused the earlier things that I'm using examples to happen. And the reason why that happened is because we keep driving down to have everything be cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. It's just a race to the bottom for everything. We have to stop that and start thinking about the human being behind it. And so if anything, I feel as if AI, kind of like COVID did, and I'll connect this, it forces us to come to this reality like right now, because otherwise, like what are we going to do? If we have to solve it, we have to solve for the problem. So let's start doing that,
Exactly. The and hold on one second. People are asking for me to put this up, so I'm going to. Oh, it'll be too much, right? Just give me a second. Where is it? There we go. Bing, pow. Sorry, Rob. I'll get that out of your way.
That's all right. I'm your moneymaker, Hal.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, buddy.
Put that right over my face.
Yeah, I'm moving it. It just takes its own sweet time. Hold on. There we go. I don't know why it takes
I'm
its
gonna
own
take a
sweet
drink
time.
while I'm hidden.
There you go. Take a picture of that right now, and then I'll set it up later. There we go. It's just now I can move it without it being on screen, I think. There we go. And shrink it down, and then we'll be better. But so the biggest thing right now, of course, is everybody's sort of fighting to be the kind of the big chat bot. But behind the scenes, the reality is that what's actually happening, and this is why all the stupid people are afraid that, of the and give me, in all deference, there are two sets of stupid people. There are the kind of like ignorant, the only knowledge I have about any of this stuff is based on some sci-fi movies that I particularly liked at one point, and I didn't really even understand the theory or the philosophy behind it to start with. You know what I mean? And some of them don't even have one. I would like to remind everyone that there are many cases where the movie that you're talking about, even Terminator, didn't even find its sort of philosophical bedrock until maybe the second during the writing of the second movie and into the third. Because it was really about time travel, robot comes back to kill you, and it's just an automaton, and automatons are bad. Anything that you can wind up like a wind-up toy and it just keeps killing until it goes away is bad. That was essentially the idea. And there's a deeper question about this technology is coming. It is inevitable, because that was what the story of the second one was. The inevitability of AI. What happens when it gets there? It's not a matter of if, but when, right? And somebody said, in what industry will AI control usage? Like, we got a couple of questions in here already that I think are, what industry will take the lead in AI usage? Obviously, financial and computing and stuff, anything that takes a lot of scriveners, humans that used to write in ledgers and compare things one to the other. The other thing is research, I think. Research, taking data from one area and comparing it to data in another and calculating the overlap of that data is very brain intensive and boring. And, any job that had a scrivener at one point, gone. Right.
A lot of people think that law is a good spot for it, because law is a very concise set of rules. It's its own set of rules, if you want to think about it that way, based on the law, and the law is all written down. So you could effectively train a Gen AI with the law, and then you can have it summarize and apply it to problems, right? And it's also a lot of I'll call it redundant work, I call it data entry, just work. A lot of lawyers, they're trained to do stuff, but they're really just process driven, right? So if you don't do the process right, then you lose. So most of lawyering is just process, staying on process, right? And then making arguments based on the law. Another place is
real quick though.
Sorry, go ahead.
Real quick to that point. There was an article this morning. I want to say it was on Market Watch or something like that, which was this program called something like Lawyer Ride Along or Lawyer on Call, which is an AI service that every employee of a company is getting, so that while they're working on something, they will have this thing up in the corner. Go, is that cool by our our fiduciary duty? Is it legal? Do we have a legal basis for being able to do that? And any employee can check that without having to go through legal to do it. Now, will there have to be lawyers to argue it? Will big corporations lose the big high-priced lawyers that they have? No. But will they have to have an army of paralegals waiting on hand to answer stupid questions from accounting or advertising, the marketing team or anything? No. And those people can, I guess, either intern with the bigger lawyers doing something else for them, preparing for the actual stuff, instead of just being on call to answer nitpicky questions while people are, putting together perspectives for a client.
Right. A great example of what you're talking about, if that's completely different, would be in the medical field, medical imaging. So you get the results from an ultrasound or an MRI or something that's got some image-based output, right? And then somebody's got to go through all those pictures or the movie or whatever it is, and they look for signs of particular diseases or whatever they're doing. You could totally use a Gen AI image recognition software to do that. But then once it sort of tags stuff, then a human, a doctor, would come back and look at what it tagged, and they would double check. So the same way you're talking about law, you could do that with accounting. Accounting's another one where it's based on a set of rules, and you just have to follow the rules.
Yeah,
exactly. So all of these places, there's a ton of places like that where there's just these massive amounts of time spent doing stuff that's not the actual output, I'll call it, or the productivity, right?
That's right. And I would say any place that's a brain brothel, that where like outsiders could come in to pay money to use your organ, it just happens to be the one between your ears. That's what accounting firms are. They're brain brothels. And this is especially considering what they get asked to do for the Trumps of the world. Now, real quick, we have somebody wants to chime in. Hold on. Let's see.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. Hal's got an important message for you all. If you're enjoying the show and want to support him, don't forget to like and subscribe to Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Your support means a lot to Hal and helps keep the show running.
See, I'm already outsourcing stuff that's painful to me. Is that part of doing the show? Just the ask.
And she might be more convincing than you, Hal. I don't know.
Ouch. Well, she's certainly more alluring.
There you go.
That's right. So, and by the way, can I show you something real quick? Okay, so I don't know why, but Anthropic, who's one of these big AI companies, their large language model is like a closed language audio user derivative enterprise or something. So they came up with Claude for their thing, Claude. Claude is friends with Cortana, but they don't talk much anymore, but Claude, okay? And Claude is the name, which is, backstory, when I had my sketch comedy group at the Ice House in Pasadena for 2 years, I did 2 90-minute shows a night, Friday and Saturday, in a row, because I work for a living, for almost 3 years. And my dad came to one show once. He managed to come out. He was out in LA several times over the course of those years, but he came to one show once. And we were doing an improv, and I asked for a name. And my father, the only thing he yelled out when we said, I need a name for this guy. And my dad said, Claude Balls. And he thought that was hilarious. So obviously, sense of humor in our family skips a generation. My grandfather was very funny, but my dad yelled Claude Balls at my show at the time. Okay, so anytime I hear Claude, it will be Claude Balls from here till eternity. Now that said, if I may, they have Claude. I'll show you Claude right now. Claude is the man. Here is Claude. This is Claude's page, and he does not have an audible voice like Pi does. Claude does not. He is, and I asked him, I was like, do you have an audible voice? No, I don't have an audible voice. I'm an AI language model that communicates through text only. I don't have the capability to produce or process audio because of how they're building it. This is AI language modal capabilities, because I asked it specifically in this category. And so I could, I just did that. Okay, you want to see something interesting? That's Claude. That's their website. That's what they want it to look like. That's the design for Claude. Here's Pi. Claude.
It's like a chat window, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, but they made it the same color. Like ChatGPT is white with its little blurby thing. It has a black screen with its little graphic that comes up. They're cribbing from Pi like crazy right now. And I feel like they're going to eventually launch a name. Now, with Pi, you could kind of say that's a generic-ish sounding name. Claude, if it's going to have, I don't know, a weird French accent. He's going to have to be like a Quebecois kind of Canadian fellow. Hello, I'm Claude. What do you want to know? But I can't tell you that. I might lie to you. I may bullshit. We call it, hallucinating, but we all know. And all of my answers, you're going to ask for food. I'm going to give you a recipe for poutine. That's what you're going to get every time. The best thing I can give you, the most American food, spaghetti with chili on top of it. What the fuck do you want from me? I am Claude. I don't know how you name it, Claude.
Tell me what's in your refrigerator, and I'll tell you how to make a poutine out of it.
Yeah, right. That's right. I got four apples, a jug of milk, and 1 egg. Okay, apple poutine. Here we go. I am a Claude, and
you have ramens? That'll work too.
Hey, that's the noodles. We got this covered. Let me tell you. I'm going to make you know that shit they sell in Cincinnati? We're going to make that into poutine. You just sit there and relax. You don't even need potatoes. I don't even know what the fuck. Claude. So if it's French, it's pronounced Claude. If it's German, it's pronounced Cloud. Yes. Well, they would go straight with the Klaus, you know. They would call him Klaus, and he would say all sorts of bad things, and he would ask for a glass of your finest milk and ask if you were hiding enemies of the state under your floorboards. While you speak English and smoke a pipe. So anyways, I found it interesting that they are like just fucking ripping off the look of it.
This happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Especially on the web.
Yeah. So
I mean,
that's
if Apple uses a background in like in an advertisement, that background or the style of that background will be in everything that's tech, like within 2 months. Yeah. So
I will show you. I want to show you one thing and see if it'll stay up on the screen. Here's one of the fascinating things about this, and this is showing up in a bunch of these things. And again, this goes towards why I think you and I are so bullish about AI. In the chat controls, I'm using 3.5 Sonnet. I have not signed up for the biggest version of Claude yet because I don't need it. I have ChatGPT and Pi, and I have Copilot. I'm paying for all of these as I learn how to use them in the background for the show. So that by the fall, I'm hoping I've already launched my one GPT that I made, and I'm gonna try some coding as soon as summer is over and back to work. But here's the fascinating part of this. The chat styles in this, it has a font option in here, right? You can use the default. You can match the system. Or right here it says dyslexic friendly. That's awesome.
I need that.
Right. What a great idea. Because they don't have a voice. One of the reasons why I asked if it had an audible voice is because, it's bad enough when people who are dyslexic or for eyesight reasons or whatever, it would slow down the process because you have to type it. It's one of the reasons why they've made all these speak so much faster so that the interaction can be much easier, right? How long before they become your tech team? All right, Michael, easy.
They already are.
Yeah, right. They helped me through one of my Wi-Fi problems when Rob wasn't available, and it was basically like it just pulled the manual and said, here's the suggestions from the manual. If this doesn't work, one of the forums said this. And it was specific to the device, which was useful, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, the dyslexic friendly part of it, I think, is like, again, thumbs up AI. That's another example of good. This is where things should be headed. That people with disabilities or, neurodivergent or physical difficulties or any of that kind of stuff now can fast track their function in society and their ability to communicate and be a human with their fellow humans because they don't necessarily have this thing holding them back that they had for centuries. I know, Michael, I was kidding around. Thank you. So yeah.
I'm dyslexic, like pretty badly. Okay. And I use the text, or a lot of times if I write, a lot of people think of dyslexia as you just switch things around. But that's not really it. It has more to do with once your brain kind of gets wired to believe a certain set of events, it's very difficult to unwire that. And sometimes you get it wrong. So for instance, if you say a sentence or if you write a paragraph, you might repeat something twice, or you might have left something out of that you thought you said. And you'll be fully convinced that, no, I definitely said that. And then go back and look and it's not there. But worse than that, if you didn't say it and you go back and proofread without taking time in between, you will actually think it's still there. Like you'll believe or you'll read and
Wow.
you'll think that missing thing is
Gotcha.
still there, right? So the neat thing about using ChatGPT in this case is that you can summarize something, or you can just paste it right in there and say, check this for like grammar or errors or things like that, and it'll point those
Right.
things out pretty easily.
Right.
A lot of other things with spelling and things like that, a lot of people, I'll type something out and there'll be just like horrific spelling in it.
Right.
And it's just like, I don't see it, right? And so people
Yeah.
are like, well, you're dumb. Oh no, like I'm not dumb, I just can't see it.
Yeah. Keith in our chat room says prompt but verify, which I think has to be an AI shirt. You know what I mean? Like that should be a Fried AI shirt. I mean, I'm surprised that Keith, if I were you, I would just open up a Teespring store right now and make 20 different variations of prompt but verify, and sell them hand over fist to nerds everywhere. You might want to spring for putting the ChatGPT logo on the sleeve and just leaving it there, and off you go. And it's true, but there is a
for Claude though.
Okay.
Let me
Yeah.
suggest that for Claude, I would guess that it switches it to speaking. Is that what it does when you say dyslexic friendly?
no,
what does it
dyslexic
do?
friendly is a
I'm
form
curious.
is a specific type of font. I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go check that out and see what it does.
Yeah. Let me know if it, because I don't know that it would work for me. It's like one of those things where like you set the screen res differently on your computer, and then all of a sudden you can't see anything because it inverts the colors or something like that. And I'm like, people with the color blindness or something like that, or have a vision issue, they can now see it, and now I can't find any of the menus. And you're like, are you sure you want to change it to this? And you're like, yeah, let's see what it looks like. Ah, crap! Now my screen is
You're like,
gone. Yeah, right. But for some, and like now I got to find somebody who's colorblind to turn this off. Going around the neighborhood, knocking on doors. Excuse me, do you have anybody? Shoop. All right. It's that asshole down the street who keeps changing his screen res. So this, overall. By the way, it's Hal Sparks Mornings, Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, share it out right now. This is a different topic than we normally deal with on the morning shows and in the afternoon shows and stuff, but it is absolutely crucial, and will be increasingly so. And I have to say, so far, this first hour has breezed by. I think this has been our most fun episode yet, considering my tech issues at the beginning. Let me just tell you,
Hopefully.
if anybody can roll with it and still be charming, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's useful or not, but maybe in the future, like we could use AI to solve something. Like I almost exclusively use AI to solve a problem. So
Yeah.
it might be, and usually it's something I don't know enough about, right? So
Right.
for instance, let's say you didn't know how to use Excel or Google Sheets, whatever you use, a spreadsheet. A lot of people that do are like, oh, that's just really silly. It's simple. You have columns and you have rows and you give it a formula. Well, what if you don't know anything about that?
Right.
You could, with any of the language models, you can literally say, I have a spreadsheet and I would like to add A, B, and C together. Tell me how to do that. And it'll do it for you, or even in complex formulas, it'll just write the formula and you can copy and paste it if you describe exactly what you want to do. So one thing that I struggle with sometimes is like the forward and backwards of percentages. Like, again, being dyslexic, that's really hard, because if you want to know what 100% of something is, what is a 50% raise or 50% decrease? What is the math for that? And it's just like, putting the numbers in the right order, multiplying, dividing, stuff like that, right? If you describe, I would like, tell me the formula for getting, 50% increase of 250. It'll give you the formula, and then you can see the formula, right? It doesn't necessarily give you it will give you the answer, but it'll also give you the formula that got it there. And so while you're asking the question, it'll teach you how to do it, right? I'm just sort of describing like how more clear ways of like simple ways to use it And
Well, I'll
when
show
we
you an
call it a
example of that.
UI, that's what's
Yeah.
really important, because
Yes.
like the UI of Excel looks like a big grid
Oh
with
my
an
God.
address
I-
bar at the
I
top,
gotta
and like
tell
you
you.
look at it, and you're like, this is crazy. Right?
Notion, which is the note-taking software that you and I kind of exchange some stories through and that kind of stuff, which I enjoy, and I use it as sort of a second brain to store things. And like when people watch my show and I pulled up like that clip of Trump being grilled on that Australian documentary about turning off gain of function, turning gain of function research back on and all that kind of stuff. I have that clip stored in my Notion in a file called politics under a particular set there, which is really useful. Now I can just go to it at any time instead of just a bookmark in my browser, because what if I have to use another browser or the browser's down or there's an issue with it? I have that in particular. Now, from that, a good example of like solving an issue. So I had an issue with HomeKit in my house. So I have a lot of Hue light bulbs. And I have apparently at this point more than one bridge will handle, because apparently, which is, I don't know who the moron behind this design was, but in all these situations, and I'm going to scoot you over. There you go. In all these situations, like once you hit 50, you're just done. They never expected you to have more than 50 devices over a period of time. Now, there's some that I've killed over time or that don't work anymore or that I've moved or whatever, but they start to stack. If you start doing all the light bulbs in your house and you start slowly but surely turning them to LED and making sure that they're on a thing, especially if you want to save, like energy, and you make sure they all go off at a certain time, that you like, I won't say the word here, but I have a almost like a panic room word that if I say to S, or I even have one little A device in my office, if I say that out loud 3 times, all the cameras in the house start recording and all the lights come on. So if the thought is there's an intruder in the house and I'm not sure, or I'm in a different part of the house or whatever, I just tell it to do this and it turns all the lights on. Now I can also say another phrase that turns all the lights back off. So if I can know, it's going to turn all the lights on bright. I can cover my eyes, say it, it'll turn the lights on bright, and then I'll say the other thing, and they're suddenly night blind for a little bit if I know they're in the next room. That kind of stuff. Yes, I'm a crazy person. But no, James Rhodes says canopy, canopy, canopy. That's my safe word. But
it's not Claude balls, is it?
It's not Claude balls. No, yeah. So point is, if you say, and it's not any of the words that you'd hear 3 times, it's very nerdy and specific to by the way, it's related to something I don't like, as opposed to something I do. So if you looked up all my favorite movies and you looked up all my favorite phrases or shit I'd repeated and over time, or phrases I know very well, I don't use any of that shit. I don't use if I borrow a PIN number or a phrase from a movie, it's something I don't like. And not even something I hate. It's something I marginally don't like and that I don't watch, because it's always there if I need to go refresh myself, but it's not something like, he loves this and he hates this. It's one of these two. Like, I've watched enough sci-fi movies to know that they would just like look around your DVD case and go, aha, after 6 weeks. Anyways, the kidney. If it was the kidney, I'd be screwed. The whole place would just blink on and off all the time.
That's why all the lights go off, right?
That's right. Yeah, I accidentally said it. Damn it. Don't never say it 3 times. Yeah. So anyways, it ran me through the basic stuff I'd done before, check the firmware and the app updates. Okay. Reboot the Hue bridges. That's fine. Reset HomeKit configuration on the Hue bridge. Open the Hue app, go to settings, HomeKit's there, select the Hue bridge that is not showing up and remove it from HomeKit. Now that was one of the things that I am not want to do in those situations, because I'm like, that will jettison all my lights. Everything will stop working, but it doesn't. It just refines it again, because the device itself, even though it's been removed from HomeKit, still maintains its connection to all the devices. So it's hard to tell that from its instructions. You can't, I'm like, is this blanking it out? Is this resetting it effectively in this as well? Or the other stuff that's connected? Well, that was the key. That was the little turn. I'd done this stuff a bunch of times. I'd even checked the network. I had jumped past this step because I was going through all the normal ones. So I hadn't
Yeah.
taken both
So
of them off and added them back again. And that was the thing that yeah.
interestingly enough, well, first of all, your example there, if you would have wanted to try to do that, you'd have had to go into the documentation and read through it and somehow ascertain that. So that what you
Right.
just showed there is effectively the LLM summarizing a lot of stuff that came
Yes.
from the manual. The second thing is that's really interesting is when you read through those, you got to that one thing and you didn't do it because you were like, I don't want to do that. If you were to basically say back to it, step 3 seems like it might work, but is there a way to do it without turning my devices off because I'm afraid of doing that?
Right.
It would tell you what like, no, you won't, it'll answer that question specifically. And that's what I found to be most interesting is before using Gen AI, I would go to Google and I'd Google something, I'd figure out where it was and then look at basically people solving the problem and try to like link up how they solved it with my problem, which is very unique, right?
Right.
And everybody's problem is very specific and unique. What Gen AI has done for that process is it basically focuses the solution on the actual thing that I'm trying to do,
Right.
which takes away all of that extra stuff of you like trying to do that and it not working, right?
Right.
And that's what's so interesting about it is you can come back at it and ask it questions about the one spot. Like, I did this and it didn't work. Can you give me some other possibilities for why or how or whatever? And it'll do
I
that,
think,
like,
I
very
think this
well.
is getting to where the audience in particular can find a use for this. And I want to encourage people to try this, that if you're having an issue, even if you don't subscribe to the higher versions of ChatGPT or any of these things, you can go on the website and go, hey, how do I fix this thing? Whatever it is. If there's something wonky, don't electrocute yourself. But if you're having an issue with your computer or even like, your like, I would argue that even more than problems, we're going to be pro AI in this regard. One of the things that I had thought about years ago, before my show emerged as what it was, like if I had my dream AI show, or my dream computer show, or my dream even media show about anything, if I did it just a YouTube follow Hal around, it would not be a travel thing where the 9 biggest cruise ships in the world, or the 35 wonders of the world, because I think there's a lot more than we give credit for. I would do a show called like getting the best out of this, whatever. Like the whole purpose is like, hey,
cool.
This thing, we always talk about how your fucking phone has more technology on it than, the things, the computers that landed the Apollo on the moon, right? That's what we hear all the time. And we all know, it's almost embarrassing, I think, how most of us walk around with the phone in our pocket and we're like, I don't put this to use anywhere near as much as I could, right? I don't get the best at how would this serve me, and how would I, what about this am I just not using well? And the big place it comes up for me, and I'm sure there's some musicians in the chat room who can attest to this, that if you get a new foot pedal, and I don't mean just the singular, wired ones, I mean the AI modeler versions or whatever, like the Line 6 stuff or the Boss stuff. You stare at the fucking thing and you go, okay, I'm pretty good. I've got a couple of sounds I like, but I know there's so much more that this thing can do, and I have no fucking idea where to get started even, right? Getting this, I want to get the most out of it. I paid money for it, and it's got all these features, but the manual might be thick and useless, or the how-to guides are all like, well, this is the clean sound, and this is the distorted sound. Like, yes, I know, asshole. They all sound alike. They're all the same thing. But how do I make my own shit? How do I incorporate like the order of effects in the thing to make my own personal? Yes, Kemper is giving me a brain tumor. That's exactly right. 250k ohm. So the Kemper is amazing, but bananas. Like the dials on it's ridiculous. And so, having an AI there going like, okay, here's what's going to happen. Today, I'm playing around with my rig, and I like the distortion sound I got, but what am I missing about the Kemper? What part of this am I not using? This is the model I'm using. Give me 10 unused things that you could teach me how to use this aspect of it, and I can play around with it. And then if I find that one of them is really useful to my stuff I'm working on, I can go, okay, let's dive into that. Now, show me how to make this second nature so I can dial this shit in quickly, or I can play around in this area without having to fucking start back from scratch. Yes, the Pod HD 500X, Bryce is saying, a great device. The Helix. I have a Helix. That's what I use. It's a Line 6 device. And it's got microphone inputs on it. It's got a looper in it. I have no fucking idea how to use the looper in it effectively, right? And the buttons change usage depending on what other buttons you've stepped on first. So it's like it just fucking scrambles everything. It's annoying. And so I feel like AI, if it has one thing and it's little like, hey, this is, you know, a value point, if it has a direct value point for anybody, it's anything you have that you're like, I should know how to use this better. You know, even if it's your fucking grill or your stove has a timer on it and you're like, what does the broil part of it mean? Voice meter? Absolutely. Well, that's, by the way, that's exactly what I did. So I started for our audio on the show, and I'm still getting used to it because I've still got to run it manually. I created a submix so that my guests and I can have a conversation before the show starts. I can turn off the audio going to the thing so we can still hear each other, but it doesn't go out over the airwaves. So we can, you know, just prep the show and that kind of stuff. I can turn it on if I want them to hear us, but it doesn't have to be. I'm not stuck that way. I can either hear my guests and everybody hears them, or I can't, right? That's something that's now available to me. And I asked ChatGPT to run me through that. Like, how do you do that? And it worked. It worked, you know, very well. Now I just have to figure out the camera shit, which is being weird. Although I think it's just a restart. It'll just say restart your shit and it'll work. It'll go back to normal. But that's crucial. Okay, chat room. We got a couple of questions in here. But chat room, I want to hear from you. Do you have, and no dildos, calm down. You have a device in your house that you're or something you work with, a piece of software or something that you deal with on the regular at work, right? That you're like, I know I'm at best a pro-am user of this, a professional amateur. That if I knew a little more about it, would make my life a lot easier. List it in the chat room. I'm curious. I want to see it.
Yeah, if there's a piece of software like that, if we could get it to something we could put up on the screen, and what would be even cooler is if neither of us knew how to do it. If we could on the screen use ChatGPT, and we'll teach you how to use it without knowing anything about it.
Totally.
I do that all the time.
People do that all the fucking time. Yeah, all the time.
Right.
I mean,
So-
look, I have when somebody brings up something and I'm on another topic or whatever, and my brain's not on a particular thing that they're like, what about this? I will, while the video's playing, I'll call up, because sometimes the description even they give isn't quite. They'll go, what about this thing that happened in Montana? I'm like, all right, what happened in Montana? I'm like, oh, that thing. Okay, that was 3 weeks ago. That's this. Okay. And then I know kind of what they're talking about, right? I will do that search while I'm talking, because it's not going to come off the top of my head. It's absurd to even expect it to. But there are a ton of people who are now using AI as their co-pilot for their podcasts and other stuff to appear better at, at stuff than they actually are. Torvi says Excel, because you brought that up as well in there.
So that would be fine. I don't know how interesting it would be, but it would be like, it's a simple program to like see. It looks very complicated. Then once you kind of get it, it's easier, right?
But it can run you
it's one
through
of those
like
that even
tutorial.
even
basically.
people that know how to use it sometimes don't know how to do stuff, right? And so that would be a great one. What I'm trying to get to, though, is I think the thing that it's like people don't know where to start. And
yes, that's what I'm trying to tell. So real quick before you get into that, because I think it's important.
Go ahead.
Just from the chat, you don't like my music says Ableton Live or Ableton Live, which is it's like a Logic to like software. Completely true. And what you want to do on the software parts of it, unlike Excel, which is just a generic program, is go, okay, I don't understand how the buses work in this. Work me through this. Just talk to me like I'm a fucking moron. And it's basically a whatever you need for dummies on call all the time that's specific to your problems. And you can go, I still don't understand what, and it will reframe it until you get it.
Right.
So Ableton Live
That's
is a great
the part
one.
that's most interesting.
Yes, open Ableton Live, open up ChatGPT on the side and go, hey, I'm playing with Ableton Live right now. I've got it open on my screen, and I'm having trouble understanding the routing for the synth. Talk to me like I'm a newbie about that. I know how to use the rest of it, but walk me through the steps on using this and what I could be missing. Somebody also said there's Samsung refrigerator with a screen. There are that is exactly the kind of thing where it'll go, hey, if you want to get the most out of it, use it for this, this, and this. Okay, well, that sounds good. How do I use that? And it'll give you a breakdown, like a list, a bullet list of how to do that. KOHA library systems. I don't even know what that is. Is that software? I'm assuming it's a databasing kind of a thing. Exactly right.
We don't need to solve this second, but what I'm trying to drive at is,
yes.
I think that I have a story from early in my time. I didn't know how to code at all. I was an art major in college. And I was trying to get into doing HTML markup just because I was interested in it and my business needed it. And my friend was a software developer. Okay. And so he knew everything about everything. But in my mind, I was like, oh, there's like some magical software that you have to know and get into and this and that. And so I was asking him questions just conversationally, like, how does this even work? I don't understand. He's like, oh, it's just Notepad. Just open Notepad and start typing. I'm like, yeah, but once I write it, like, how do I make it work? He's like, just open the file. It's a text file and an HTML file are the same thing. Yeah. So that's getting a little bit, that simple concept, I just didn't even conceive of before he said that. I was like, wait, so all you have to do is delete the .txt and type in .html and then the browser will open that? He's like, yeah, yes, that's all you got to do.
Right.
And here I was thinking, no, there was like some magical thing that had to happen. Must be way more
complicated. Right.
Exactly. So that conversation, then I was like, oh, and it opened up like the whole world to me because I was like, well, so that little N thing actually doesn't mean anything. All it does is it tells the thing that opens it what to do with it. And you can change the end of that to anything you want, right? So
that's right.
That little concept has stayed with me all these years, and it sort of built on my ability to troubleshoot things and stuff like that. I use that only as an example because it's usually very simple things that keep us from like starting to do something that seems like a little complicated because you open it up and you're like, I don't even know where to start. And then the tutorials are like ridiculously complicated. And all you want to do is just add two things. And I'm using Excel again. So just add two things. How do I add two things? If you had to go through the book of Excel and figure out how to add two things, you might never find the simple formula of sum. But if you ask Copilot or something, I want to add A1 to B1. How do I do that? It'll say, here's 3 steps. Here's how you do it. Right. And you didn't have to look at anything. You just asked it and it told you. And it's like a different way of like coming at the problem. And then once you start to get those little pieces, they're like foundational elements. You're like learning how to learn a little bit differently. And that's what opens up Gen AI to like doing these crazy things.
Gotcha. So
hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the Koha question, I was just using this as an example because I was trying to grab one in general. This is, I just typed into ChatGPT. Can you teach me how to use the Koha library systems? Sure, I can help you with that. Koha is an open source integrated library system, ILS, used by libraries worldwide. Here's a step-by-step guide to get you started. Setting up a Koha installation in a Linux environment. Koha is typically installed on a Linux server, not most commonly Debian-based distributions like Ubuntu. There's the commands for the installation, so you can just copy the code and put it in there. Follow the installation instructions specific to your server environment. 2, configuration. Create a Koha instance. This is the sudo Koha, copy the code. Replace my library with your desired instance name, whatever you want to call your library. There it is. Configure Apache to serve Koha. Typically, Koha creates configuration files in this. And you can ask it, okay, how do I configure the Apache part? And it'll walk you through it. Because this is all new. This is just the bare bones of it. And each of these steps, you're like, okay, step 2, break that down moment by moment. Step 3, database setup. Access to Koha database and set it up using MySQL or MariaDB. Create necessary users and grant permissions. Web installation, access the web installer by navigating to that, your server, whatever that is, the port that goes with it, your domain, whatever that is. Follow the web-based setup wizard to configure your library settings. There you go. Log into it. Basic navigation, cataloging,
So that's
circulate.
That's some pretty crazy stuff. I don't think most people in the chat would.
No, but what I'm saying is that I'm going even to the most extreme version of like complicated shit. Right?
Yeah, I would go to even do a simpler thing, like how do I make my iPhone's pictures have more resolution?
Yeah,
those are, or how do I make? I have a dark image on my iPhone 15 or 14 or whatever you have. How do I make it brighter? Like stuff like that is tough to find, and it'll like direct you to that. I don't use iPhones at all. And so making
a dark image brighter on your iPhone is straightforward using the built-in photo app. Here's how to do it using the Photos app. Open the Photos app. Locate and open the Photo app on your phone. Select the image. Edit the image. Tap Edit. Tap Adjust icon. Looks like a little dial. It even tells you it looks like a little dial, so you know which little adjust you're looking at. Swipe through the adjustment options till you find brightness. Use the slider to increase the brightness. Slide it to the right to make the image brighter. Fine-tuning and other settings. You can also adjust other settings such as exposure, shadows, and contrast to improve the overall look of your image. Exposure increases or decreases the overall light in the photo. Shadows lightens or darkens the darker areas of the photo. And contrast adjusts the difference between the light and dark areas. Once you're satisfied with the adjustments, tap Done and save the changes. You can use third-party apps. Here's you can download open Snapseed. You can tune the image in there. You can use Adobe Lightroom to do it. There you go. That's exactly. And again, if any of those, the best part about it is those are pretty easy steps. But if any one of those steps is particularly pernicious to you, like I can't figure out how to, I don't know, like
so you get to the first one. It says go to settings. I think. What is the I can't find settings.
Yeah, right.
I can't. So the first one is like open Photos app. Something.
I can't find the Photos app on my phone.
That's how you would do it with a tech support, right?
Right. And they would go, if you can't find the Photos app on your phone, it might be hidden. Move to a folder or restricted where you. That's on the computer, I think, is what it means. Okay, swipe down to the home screen. Swipe down from the middle of the home screen to the search bar. Type Photos in the search bar, and the app should appear in the search results. Tap on it to open it. That's what it is. If you put it in a folder and you don't know, that's how you'd find it. And you can reset the home screen layout to make it go back. Right.
Yeah. So this is what I'm trying to talk about is like, all I want to do is make my picture brighter, and I see it on TV. It's so easy, but I have no idea how to do it.
Yes.
and so that's really interesting because you'll like go through and you'll Google and you'll find some tutorial, and the tutorial goes like, oh, go to settings. And you're like, you stop because you're like, I can't even find settings, right? I can't even find the second step. I give up, right? That's what Chat GPT is so good at, or any of the LLMs, is you don't have to stop. You can say, I got lost at 2. I can't find this thing. And just keep digging and digging with it through that, and it'll help you, just like if you called the support tech for Dell, or just like you went to
Only
the
you
Apple
don't feel
store
stupid asking them a question, or you don't get frustrated if it tells you to do something you've already done. You can say, I've already done that, and it won't ask you 3 times. When I was on tech support for this Wi-Fi mesh setup I set up in the house, I had 2 different Wi-Fi, like, I lost them obviously because they're like, okay, go over this and restart your thing. And I'm like, I'm on chat with you. If I reboot it, you will disappear. And they're like, well, that's okay. You'll pick up where you left off. No, I didn't. I blanked the chat and I had to start from scratch. And when I called, they put me through two different people. Both people told me to do the same shit, which was reboot the router, turn off the other ones, only turn one on at a time, tell them what color is blinking. I'm like, it's blinking blue. It's ready to pair, but it's not pairing. That's the issue. And I ultimately I figured it out, but it was a physical thing that was happening in the house. That said, it was kind of like I felt bad that I would get aggravated with this person who is clearly in India, telling me to do something that I've already done 3 times, because most of the time when they're dealing with this, people don't do this basic thing. They don't bother. And so they're talking them through this. I did tech support for a living for a little while. I did it for John Truby's story software that he did. I'm the person who actually had a big Hollywood screenwriter's wife on the phone while he was yelling in the background, trying to figure out what the hell was wrong and why he couldn't, where they were going to use this program. And I literally went through the whole thing where I was like, okay, let's just start from scratch. Is your printer's plugged in? Yes, it is. Okay. Is it plugged into your computer? What computer? They thought it was like a typewriter. I don't know that you could talk to. I don't know how the hell they got to this point where they didn't have a computer hooked up to it. Like, it's not in the same room. This is well before Wi-Fi printers or anything like that. This is a dot matrix printer. Like, what are you talking about? I got there. So I have sympathy for someone in that situation, right? Okay. Now clearly the screenwriter himself, once he stopped screaming, was like, "It's the computer's in the other room." He had one of these like the early Mac laptops, but he thought somehow it was either Wi-Fi connected, which was ridiculous, or it did it digitally, and it didn't have the port on it, so he's going to need a port cable to connect the two. If he wanted to print something, it was going to have to be physically connected. We worked through it, but that was a huge part of that conversation. But when it's ChatGPT, they don't give a shit. If you say, "I've already done this part," it'll never ask you to do it again.
Ask over and over and over again, and it'll keep repeating the same thing, and it'll keep trying. Yeah. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah, are you sure? Yeah. But it will also go, yeah, if you have a problem, if that's not your problem, then there's a couple other options. It may be the cables, so swap out the physical cables of it. So it'll start working through the physical aspects of it. But anyways, it's how do I get the most out of my ... is one of the other great things, whether it's you've got a Ninja blender, or you have an air fryer, or I'm dead serious, or you have a Samsung fridge with a screen on the front of it, which is just fucking baller. Congratulations, chat member who has that. Because I want one, but Summer won't have it. Summer thinks it's ridiculous. And she's right. It's still cool, though.
You'll just stand ridiculous there doing stuff all day.
And cool. It's both, and you can touch them, and you can see what's in the fridge without opening it, which doesn't it doesn't let the cold out. I'm just saying, runs on a battery, so if your power's out, you can look in the fridge and see what's there instead of opening it and losing the cool. I'm just, can you open it? Yeah. Should you? No. All right.
There's a couple of
key.
Questions.
Yes.
You want to do those? One is. I think it's actually from Andrea. Oh, no, it's from Right Said Rob. Mm-hmm. Hey, good end of that name. I like that. Mm-hmm. With AI, will there be less hacking? Excuse me. We kind of answer this in a different way each time. It's kind of like there'll be more and it'll have less effect. Yeah. Maybe that's the best way to say it. Because
there'll be a lot of digital noise both directions, but it won't have anything to do with us. And it will be very little Matthew Broderick's sitting there trying to play thermonuclear war on a server that they're using a phone attachment for.
And I always like when people worry about hacking, I try to talk about the fact that most hacking, if you get hacked, there's the two most likely ways it happened are one was phishing. So you gave up the information because you were fooled, basically.
Yes.
Like, and that happens. Like, a weird email came from your bank and you clicked it thinking it was that, and then you gave up the information logging in. So phishing is the number one probably way. And the second most likely way you're going to get hacked is people buying information that was like a database dump or something like that, and in that database had some information about you, and but they're going to get this huge set of information about you, about a lot of people, and they're just going to start using AI to pepper sites to try to log in as you and the other 500,000 people or 2 million or 10 million people that they have in that list. So like hacking is not like you said, it's not like the movies where it's like a person in a basement directly trying to get into your router, into your computer to get some information from you. That almost never happens. It's
Right.
usually some other form of like more
It's more personal
global kind of approach.
And you know, it's interesting that the more technologically advanced society gets, the more wet work will play a part. That the more face-to-face spycraft will come back. There was a period where they believed in the late 80s, early 90s especially, that the days of physical spying was over and that the future was all going to be digital spying. That it was all going to be like you know, some group would hack into the nuclear systems of another state, and this was the big concern. And it was for a time, because the systems themselves were so rudimentary that somebody like Matthew Broderick's character in War Games could actually do it. Now it's so complicated, and they are putting into place, especially with like two-factor authentication, is probably the biggest reason for this, is because they need to be there when you log into your phone before they bonk you over the fucking head. Have you said, yes, it's really me, and then they shoot you, and then they get into your phone and they do whatever they're going to do. Like there's more of that's going to go on worldwide, especially around crypto thievery and industrial spying than just somebody logging in from a remote site. Because it's getting
and a
so
lot of
complicated.
it today is just skimming social media. They would just look for someone in the Navy who had a TikTok account or had
and then honeypot them,
Instagram account,
right? And
honeypot them, or just like look at what they're saying. Or there's a couple of stories of people like talking on Reddit, I think, right? That that they just gave up the information.
I think that's probably the biggest one. Is that automated catfishing 24 hours a day. So let's say you used to have an agent that was, trying to, catfish somebody and get information out of them on a site like Reddit or someplace like the guy who spilled the secrets online, or drive them to do it, right? But that person who's in another country most of the time, or even if they're in the same country under an assumed identity, or they're another fellow traveler, whatever that was, that person basically had to be on call whenever that person came online so that they could go, hey, I'm up too. What do you got going on? That they're always, that being always there, or not missing them when they're online, where somebody else could interfere with your scheme or go, hey, that James person you've been talking to sounds a little sketchy. You want to be online to go, no, I'm not. Fuck you. That was impossible, and took a lot of work. In some cases, it took multiple people. So they would have 3 people posing as this online character in these chat rooms to catfish one source for, even like celebrity background information, all kinds of things. Now, you can have an AI bot that just watches for activity from this particular account, pops on whenever they're there, lurks in the background and waits for a moment, and then, don't jump on them as soon as they show up because it'll scare them off. But, go, hey, you're in here too? What the hell? Oh, yeah, this is when I'm working too. Oh, yeah, is this your normal schedule? Yeah, me too. Da-da-da. And so it can find out whether this is normal for you to be up at this hour or whether this is an anomaly, and therefore it will treat it as such in your next interaction. That again is probably where it gets like the most dangerous, and where the tool of AI
But the tool of AI, which is trying to fool you, you have a tool of AI that's trying to basically fraud detect along the way.
Yes.
And they will start evening out. So the like in the future, the hacking is going to be, how do I fool, in this case, like if you have McAfee or Norton protection on your computer, they're always in a race, or in a I don't know, I guess I'll call it a race, where sometimes they're ahead and sometimes they're behind. They're always trying to keep up with the new stuff, right? So AI is kind of always doing that. It's just going to accelerate. So I don't really see there being a lot of difference. There's the volume will raise up, but the net impact is probably going to be, equal to what it is today, maybe even better if AI is capable of detecting those things along the way.
Right.
And AI is, in this case, it's more about volume than it is about the particular way it's happening is still the same way. It's still trying to fool you with phishing. That's why I use those 2 examples, because again, they're not It's not a guy sitting on a computer who got switched over to a robot who's not at a computer, basically trying to tunnel into your router and then get to your computer and get all your credit card information. It doesn't really work that way.
Right.
Instead, they're going to get the volume of stuff from the database, and then they're going to just start poking at stuff. And then on the other side, the AI that's protecting the data, let's call it, is keeping those pokes from getting to it. So, for a normal person,
it's an anti-poking device.
Basically,
very important.
Yeah. For average person, the best way to protect yourself is to have two-factor authentication on everything that offers it, and never click on something in an email. Basically, like if you get something from Chase or you get something from a particular place, go to chase.com and log in. You don't click on the email, and even
especially
Chase will tell you
don't
click
on
an email.
Anything you use money on, never click on a link from an email to get to that. Go to the site itself, type it out, or go back, especially if you use it on the regular, just go to the regular, browser link. If you go, okay, Chase Bank is saying this or whatever, then go log into your Chase Bank. Don't link through the actual email. Key. Don't let, expedience keep you from being safe. Cindy says in the chat, my friend got his bank accounts drained, thought he called Geek Squad, but a hacker got him to mirror his bank account, got his savings into his checking, and his sis yelled at him from the other phone while it was happening, no doubt. That's exactly it. Like, anywhere you're using money or you use your credit card or something like that, never click through an email unless it's a trusted source. And by the way, the other, most people don't know this. You can also, if you see an email from like Apple or something like that, click on the actual Apple email, like the little outline, because it'll give you the name or the vernacular. Like, this is an email from so and so. But if you click on it, it'll show the actual email address it's from. And in a lot of cases, it's nowhere near the versions. Else, right? Yeah. So years ago, this was what, 2007 or something like that. I got an email from Apple about, some, like that I purchased, $6,000 worth of iMovies or some shit, whatever, movies on iTunes, something like that, which was not true. It was like, you need to protect yourself against fraud and blah, blah, blah. It was just one of those emails. And so I was like, okay, obviously this is horseshit. So I clicked on the Apple at the top of it, the actual name Apple, which was blue. And the link it gave me was to this weird, like, secondary website. It was like apple.support.help.whatever, .123 at this like euphonysystems.com. Okay. So I went and I looked up this company. That's not the name of it. I'm changing the name to protect the guilty. And I looked up the company, and it was in Walnut Creek outside of San Francisco, not far from where Cupertino and all that kind of stuff is. So they parked nearby Cupertino. So it sounds like, oh, it's in the San Francisco area. If you looked from the map, if you went to Google Map and you're like, oh, Walnut Creek, that's basically where Cupertino is. Maybe it's just where their office is. Bullshit. So maybe this is how they outsource to a nearby thing. So I was doing stand-up in San Francisco, and whenever I'm in a town for more than 3 days, I get a rental car because I don't like being trapped. And I drove out to this place. And I walked right up to the door of this. It was in this like little office park. And I was recording the iPhone at that time. You couldn't live stream, but I was recording on my phone at the time. I have to find the file. I know it's somewhere because I kind of kept it. And I went up to this, and there was the name right on the door and of this thing. And I knocked on the door. I was like, and I heard like shuffly noise inside. There's one of those cameras right outside the door, where they, and I'm like waving at it, and I've got my phone recording or whatever. And I'm like, hi, I got an email that apparently you guys need my credit card information. So I just thought I'd come down here personally and give it to you because I didn't feel safe. I was like talking shit just outside the door. And it was like this bustling kind of boom, boom, boom. And I swear to God, it sounded like somebody put a chair up against the door. Like they literally shoved a chair, like there was the door came over, like they checked the locks to make sure it was closed, and then there was like a kaplumple. And I was like, either the dude fucking passed out or they shoved a chair under the door to keep the knob from, the latch from turning. And
and
I was like, yeah,
you don't even need to like do the research. Like just never ever answer an email.
never.
And it sounds kind of crazy, but if you see your Apple, if you see something from Apple, just
It'll say do not reply.
close the email.
Yeah.
Close the email and go straight to your Apple account and look
Yeah.
to see if it's there.
Yeah,
You know,
'cause
it
it will
happens
be.
a lot. Like you
Yeah.
need to reset your password. That's a pretty
Oh my
common one,
God,
right?
yeah.
Your password is about to expire and you're going to get locked out of all your accounts.
Right.
So then if that's the case and you're like, "Oh, that looks like my Apple account." Don't click on the email. Just go straight there.
Right.
Same thing
And-
with phone calls. Like you'll get a phone
Yes.
call. We really need you to give us your information. You say, "No, who are you from?" And then
Mm-hmm.
hang up and call that place back if it actually does sound like it's real, like
Right.
your mortgage company, right?
Yeah.
I'll call the mortgage company. Like, don't answer anything on the phone. Hang up. Call the mortgage company. It's all.
Yeah.
That's the same logic for all this stuff.
That's right.
Which
Which also brings us
turn
to
on two-factor, which makes
yes.
it a lot.
It also goes to the one accidental moment where Roseanne's son, singularly one of the dumbest
Oh, no.
people on the fucking planet, accidentally stumbled on something that was kind of crisscrossed from something I guess Roseanne said in her weirdly conspiratorially like box-wined head, which was online. I feel like we get into these conversations that who's dividing us? These are AIs fighting AIs, which is true. Like both, like China, Russia, groups inside the United States and outside the United States, the RNC and others create pro BLM accounts and fake and anti BLM accounts and set them a fighting with a certain set of instructions to keep fighting no matter what, and they create multiple accounts on Twitter and shit like that, and they have they'll create an array of email addresses. They'll if it asks for verification, it will go to the email software that's designed to attach to it, verify it, and then come right back. It happens in a split second, and they will just punch each other in the dick forever. And you jump in the middle like, hey, I'm on this side of this issue, or I'm on the other side of this issue, and act like you're in a real argument, and you're not. You're in a circle jerk of AI. Of chatbots, not even AI, like of just chatbots yammering at each other.
Yeah,
And-
I saw you cover that, and they were very like wildly confusing, effectively like a algorithm on TikTok
Yes.
or machine learning on TikTok.
They're
with
all
AI.
over the
But again,
fucking
it's-
map, right?
That's what we say this a lot, but like AI is basically like plastered on everything right now, and it's
Yeah.
almost never actually AI.
AI,
that they're
right.
talking about.
Yes.
They're just doing that for marketing purposes. So what they were talking about in that thing was what we already know is happening, which is algorithms that essentially show you or like show you other things that you might like effectively, or feed
Right.
you information through your feed that lines up with other things that you've looked at.
Yeah.
There's a question from Laura Diamond.
Sure.
How come Macs don't need software protection? They technically do, but the reason why Macs tend to be less affected is because, one, they're Linux and not Windows, and they're a closed ecosystem. And what I mean by that is almost everything is controlled by Apple as opposed to a Windows or PC machine, which is kind of like open to anybody so that it's easy to like integrate outside of Microsoft with their computer, right? So there's a lot of more holes, I guess you could say. I mean, there's plenty of holes in a Mac, but because Apple controls their hardware, they control their OS, and they even have like a pretty hard lock on all the apps in their app store. They have to be approved, and they can they can tell what's going on with all of them in their code.
Right.
It just decreases the amount of possibilities of finding problems with what their code is, basically.
Right. Real quick, I'm trying to create something right now just to show people like, and again, most of this is about like simplicity for you guys. Again, I would encourage you, if you want to play around with AI at all, as we get near the end of the show, find something in your house that's been bothering you and as far as technologically that you have, and you're like, I know I have this, even if it's something in your kitchen, or it's like, what's the difference between a paring knife and like a I don't know, a fruit slicer or something like that? Is there a difference? It's just one's handheld and the other's got multiple blades, whatever it is. And anything that you're talking about, like, or even about diet stuff, like, how do you determine how much protein is really in what I'm eating? And in a lot of these cases, especially the ChatGPT 4.0, you can take a picture of your meal and go, how much protein is in this? And it will give a basic rundown of what's in there. You know what I mean? You can count your calories and macros with it. That kind of stuff. Anything, just give it a try. Just mess around. Use your steak knives for everything. I feel you. Right? But again, I have an air fryer. I only use basically on 2 settings. I know the rest of it's worthwhile, but I've set a little strategy for myself to go like, okay, I want to learn how to use the broiler on this thing, because I know I have a broiler on my stove, but it's much for bigger things, and I don't need to do that kind of shit. But I'd love to be able to broil things on a smaller scale in it. But what does that take? How do I have to prep food differently for the broiler? Blah blah blah, and just ask it to run me through that. And then I do it because I'm a primitivist. I believe in the power of the essentials. A permanent white belt status, that you just learn the basic part over and over and over again until you're stupid about it, where you just, like, you could do it automatically. And again, I've always said that whatever you want to do in your life, ladies and gentlemen who are listening to the sound of my voice, whatever skill you want, playing the piano, flying a plane, coding, whatever it is, I guarantee that there is an idiot out there who's been doing it for 3 years. Someone that you wouldn't loan your car to or consider capable of nearly anything has been doing it for 3 years. If you met them, you're like, this motherfucker's, like, he can't find his fucking shoes, but he can do that very well. You can do it. You can. And this as a learning tool, I think, is one of the greatest aspects of AI as it comes to us, or whatever. So I want to show you real quick what I was typing in the background while you were answering that question. I want to create a plugin for OBS. Can you help me with that? Certainly. And then it says, are you looking to create it in the OBS language or in Python? What functionality do you want to add? And what's your current level of experience with programming in OBS? 0. But so I went in and I was like, I want to do it in the original OBS code. Now, I have an idea for it. I'm not going to say what it is until I actually see if it works. But I'll tell Rob about it. He and I will. If I can get it done,
if you tell me about it, I'll make it.
I don't.
It's like, let him do it himself. Carl Smith in the chat, he asked a question that he was working on, I guess maybe with Can't Stop Lying.
Sure.
And I just did it and showed him how to do it.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was bad. But I think it's a learning. I showed him how I actually used ChatGPT to solve it, and
sure.
I showed him how I did it. Right.
Yeah.
So, I was going to say, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Like, as far as making an OBS plugin, or the fact that you would ask something to, like, walk you through something that's difficult. In that regard.
No, I mean, using something we have our basics, and usually we use it to once we have the pieces that we know are needed to, like, do the work, then we basically probe it to ask it how to use those pieces. So I can show that. I'll actually be on vacation next week, but the week after. Maybe we can pick. We got to pick something really simple, though, like something simple.
We'll
and
fix
I want to
something.
describe it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to describe it not about what we're doing, because it doesn't matter what we're doing, right?
Right.
What I want to show is, like, how to actually talk to it in order to get that information, or how to talk to it and then copy paste, or I'll show on my screen exactly what I'm doing to do something very simple. And if you can apply that to other things. Earlier in the week, this is a slightly different subject, but Carl Alessi mentioned that he used to work with my doppelganger.
Yes,
do you remember him saying that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not completely convinced you're not AI. Yeah.
So this is for Carl and anybody who is listening. I have a funny story. So I'm a twin, but we're fraternal. So If anybody,
Right.
that's usually the question. So you're a twin. I'm fraternal twin. Do you look alike? No, we don't look alike, right?
Yeah.
But there was I grew up in Rockford, Illinois. There's some Rockford, Illinois people in the chat.
Yeah.
And my mom and dad, a lot of people from Rockford, they'll take a bus to O'Hare and then fly from O'Hare and then take the bus back, right? So my mom took a bus to O'Hare, and she's on the bus and she looks out and she says she saw me, and this person looks so much like me that my mom thought it was me, to the point where she ran off the bus and went and to talk to him, and she said she didn't realize it wasn't me until she actually talked to me.
Right.
So she took a picture with them and everything. So I'm convinced that I and my brother were switched at birth with our actual identical twins, right?
Yes.
So he has an identical twin and I have an identical twin.
Right.
And Carla Lessie definitely worked with my actual twin. I'm convinced of that now.
Yeah, that makes such sense. Or this is multiplicity and we don't know it, and they've just made a lot of Robs because the great AI that runs the simulation that we're in knows we all need a Rob Glenn.
There you go. Anybody who watches Battlestar Galactica, that's their whole story. All the replicants.
Right. That's right. Or Blade Runner, which is the original models. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I used replicants. Battlestar Galactica was the Scions, and they had like 8 or 10 or 7 Scions, I guess, and they were all over this. The
Silent Raiders, by the way, are based on Apaches. Because Battlestar Galactica is based on Wagon Train. Lauren Green was in both, wore the same vest. And in the same role, and Wagon Train we went all the way, the Wagon Train was going west, but Battlestar Galactica was, we're already west, we have to go back east, essentially. That's what happened. Right. That's the arc of human evolution, was we went to the West Coast, we eventually developed space travel and all this kind of stuff, and then we left the planet, and now we got to come back, and they're going to New York. But yeah, the Cylon Raiders, if you look at them, the original the ships were based like shields, like the tan rawhide shields that some native tribes that learned from the Spanish had, and even the original the ships that the I guess the settlers or whatever the humans flew looked like arrows. They used to do the war paint, like the idea is Apache war paint was red across the eyes, and that's why the Cylon Raider has the eye going back and forth, that whole stuff, why they're all like Kit from Knight Rider. You're talking
about the original, but the newer one, which was like 10 years ago, had a lot of, they were human, and the characters were all the same. They had all kinds of different ones, but they were all only 7 different versions of them. So I'm sure
it was
that
like the 7 of 9 thing that they ripped off from Star Trek.
Right.
Yeah, that whole race that was like, there's 9 of us and we all look alike, and I'm number 7.
Right.
Yes. So we're at the end of these 2 hours. I got to say, blazed by, and I know it's a lot for people to take in, and it's a variance from the programming. I hope people appreciate that. You're gonna look back one day, and it's gonna be Rob and Hal told you to eat your Wheaties moment where they're like, they were right. They were right. So, but hit the like if you would. Share out the show. I'm going to cut it up into some chunks from this episode if I can, and make it, in little digestible parts if we have chapters. I think this should build chapters automatically, but I don't know how it would absolutely do it. But so you'll be off next week. You're away on vacation.
Yeah, I will.
And so the week after that, hopefully I can have my little thing built that I'm kind of trying to design, and you'll go, oh yeah, that's terrible. Here, do it. This is way easier. And I'll go, you bastard. And then I'll go, I knew you were AI. I knew it. So thanks so much for hanging in there. Appreciate it. And I will see you in a week and change.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody in chat, and thank you, Hal. Have a good rest of the day and rest of the weekend.
Thanks. And I'm going to go try and fix my camera issues between now and the afternoon show.
Yeah, just restart.
Yeah, it's going to be a restart. That's true. It's going to go back to normal. It's so stupid.
The thing that happened to your camera happens to mine all the time when I turn the camera on after OBS comes up and then the camera restarts. It does that same thing every time.
Yeah, it chooses a different like format on its own. It
Yeah,
defaults
and
to
it's
a
usually
format.
like either it's like
Tiny,
a pixel big,
and you're
or
up in
it's
the
like
corner.
this big.
Like, yeah, the big thing it does is it shrinks me down and puts me up in the corner up here, and then I fix it back to the
Yeah.
normal res, and then I'm gigantic, and my nostril is taking up the entire screen. It's adorable. The struggle is real, but hey, again, the fact that I can even do this show at all is a frigging technological miracle. So I don't care.
It is, and
So-
I mean, yeah, even 5 years ago, it wasn't possible to do
Not at
something
all.
like your show at this quality,
So-
you know.
Yeah,
and 10 years
exactly.
ago, like, forget about it.
Ridiculous, yeah. And in 5 years, shit, you and I are going to be on a beach, and there's going to be AI versions of us being charming and smart and funny, telling all the Luddites in the world how they should have listened to us.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Rob. Cheers.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Okay, there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. And see, it just happened in the. Look how like I'm all struck out. Like,
This is my show now. I've got a big show that I'm doing. It's so much fun. I hope you guys are enjoying Hal Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide.
I don't know why I'm cut off. It's so very odd. And then, of course, in the... nope, don't move that, you crazy thing. Over here. I want to move this guy. No, don't move that either. This is so weird. Yeah, sometimes Streamlabs just moves so slow, it doesn't want... There we go. And now I fixed it. Excellent. Also, the little tip jars, it's over here. The little tip jar is over here, and the Venmo's back. So there you go. Anyways, love you guys. Thanks for putting up with my once a week nerd out with Rob. And in we do have a Friday Eye chat in the in the Discord. For those that are in there, if you want to join in there, you can. If you have questions for us or you want some help around that, we will gladly dive into that as well over the course of time. Obviously, we can't solve all your problems, but by God, we'll get there close. I am, and yes, I know many of you are wondering, am I working on a 3D AI environment in Meta so that we can do the show on Apple Vision? Of course I am. But I gotta wait like 8 years for everybody to catch up. So, all right, I'll see you guys later. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. And wish me luck fixing the camera issue. I think it'll be just fine. I think it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be totally fine. Everything's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.